sister friend at the unveiling of the Maya Forever.
And then the lights went out. That was the Warner Theater in the district in Northwest earlier. It didn't slow Oprah down necessarily. She continued on. And the power outage there is being repeated in a number of places all around the region. The news chopper up over the University of Maryland campus, which also appears to be one of the centers of this problem. These are live pictures from on the ground from our crews there. Significant amount of power outage there. The Maryland police saying that a power outage has been reported affecting the entire campus. The university's president, Wallace Lowe, said that he had been told by Pepco that there was a problem with the electric feed to the campus and that the utility was working to restore the power. The College Park Fire Department confirmed all that, saying there was a campus-wide power outage and that they're being called to stuck elevators, and they're telling people to remain calm if you're in an elevator and use your cell phone if it's an emergency situation. And what's being repeated there, we're told, is also going on the National Mall as well. 4 of the Smithsonian museums have been closed, including the National Portrait Gallery, the Museum of American Art, the Air and Space Museum, also the American Indian Museum, all of which apparently had to be evacuated because of that problem there. Metro rail service continues while backup lighting in a number of stations is being used, and among those stations, Anacostia, DuPont, Eastern Market, Potomac Avenue, Noma Gallaudet, Rhode Island, Stadium Armory, Largo, Minnesota Avenue, Prince George's Plaza, Benning Road, Navy Yard, and Capitol Heights. It is a long list, but Metro says service will continue as long as the power to the trains has been disrupted. I want to check in right now with Dan Stessel for Metro. And Dan, you can give us sort of an idea, too. What are you hearing about electricity? We know it's affected a number of the stations. They've had to switch to backup power. What are they telling you?
Good afternoon. We are in contact with Pepco, and we're getting the same information that everyone else is. Pepco has reported that they are aware of a regional issue involving power, that they were evaluating the cause. But we haven't heard too much, or at least I haven't, much beyond that. As you said, what we do know is that this has affected us in a pretty sporadic way, in that there are 14 or so stations out of our total of 91 that have local power outages at the station itself. And as you said, trains continue to operate. The power to the trains is a separate system that is not affected by any of these outages. So all Metro rail stations are open. And those stations that do have local power outages, you tick off the list there, they are operating on emergency lighting, and so those stations are open as well. The one station that I should highlight that folks will want to know about is DuPont Circle. DuPont Circle is affected by this, which means that the escalators and elevators are not operable due to the power outage. And that's a very deep station to be climbing out of unless you're really looking for a workout. So we're recommending Farragut North as an alternate. It's about 3 blocks south of DuPont Circle on Connecticut Avenue, and we have set up shuttle bus service for customers traveling between those 2 stations.
This must be very frustrating because all you know is what we know, and that is that there's a power problem here, and you even can't find out from the utility on when you might get things back to normal service. Am I reading you right there?
Well, no, I don't think it's frustration. We're very familiar with how emergent situations develop, and oftentimes you have to take the initial minutes to properly evaluate what you're dealing with, and what the scope is and what the underlying cause is. And we recognize too that everyone wants information as quickly as possible. We're doing our best to keep our riders informed, and that's also going to be good advice as we go into the afternoon. If there's any instability in the power for the region or for Metro, we do want to advise customers of that. So, it is, as is always, good advice, but especially today, you do want to check WMATA.com before traveling this afternoon.
Dan, we really appreciate it, and if we can, we'll check back in throughout the afternoon as we find out more about this. Dan Stessel of Metro on the Newsline for us this afternoon. A couple of things to tell you about right now as we sort of take a big picture look at what's going on. This was the State Department briefing room Whereas you can see there's just that emergency light and somebody holding up a cell phone there at the briefing table. That's Marie Harf, who would have ordinarily been doing the briefing, but they, because they lost power, decided, well, that was probably not the best possible thing to do, and so they suspended that. And what happened there, again, we're hearing about all around the region. Smithsonian, as we told you, 4 of its museums were affected by this. That situation there on at College Park. And sort of big picture looking at this, we have heard from PJM Interconnection, and it is PJM Interconnection that runs the power grid for a considerable area. It's called a Regional Transmission Organization, an RTO. It coordinates the movement of electricity to Delaware, Illinois, Indiana, Kentucky, Maryland, Michigan, New Jersey, North Carolina, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, and the District of Columbia. So it's PJM that has sort of a big picture look at what's going on, and they report several of its generating units tripped and went offline. They're trying now to restart those power stations, and they don't have any estimated time for power restoration. They don't even know how many power stations are affected, nor do they have any idea about how many customers are affected. There are a couple of things you can go to. One of them is SMECO, which is the Southern Maryland Electric Cooperative, I beg your pardon. And SMECO has a list of its areas that are affected. At one time, we were told that there were about 17,000 customers, and it would look like that number even has, in fact, well, it looks like I'm trying to make some sense of all those numbers there. At 1 p.m., it looked like they had about 12,000, almost 400 of its customers affected. At 1 p.m., there were more than 1,000 outages. But the good news is that SMECO seemed to be coming back online. Looking at the Pepco outage numbers, and again, we're still trying to get in contact with them. They have not called us back yet. We're hoping that they will at some point. But interesting here, they list the number of outages that they have, and according to Pepco, the first outage was about 10 this morning. The rest of the outages were all sort of clustered in the minutes just before 1 p.m., and that's when we got the first indication from Metro that they were having a problem. And again, as we said, one of the places that is affected by this, the Smithsonian Museums. Linda St. Thomas is standing by for us on the Newsline this afternoon. Linda, we had reported that 4 of your museums had to be closed. What's the very latest?
Well, it looks like our power is back for the Air and Space Museum, the Indian Museum, and then downtown the National Portrait Gallery and the American Art Museum.
Good.
However, we don't have the public back in just yet because we have to go back and check all of the protection systems, the fire systems, all of the electrical, all of our security systems. So we don't want the public going in until we recheck everything, and then we'll be open.
Sure. Well,
I think the museums will open at different times, probably Air and Space first.
Give me a little perspective on this, if you could, Linda. How often does something like this happen? I mean, I'm trying to think back. I've been here a fair amount of time, and as far as a power outage, I'm not sure I remember one, certainly not one that has this sort of scope. What do you think?
I've been here many years. I don't remember anything like this. We have had an individual museum with an outage, but I have never had, a system-wide, regional thing like this from Pepco.
Did you get any communication from Pepco? Were you in touch with them? Did they tell you, hey, we think we've got a handle on this? What's that line of communication like?
Well, we have a command center, which is Smithsonian Security and our facilities managers, and they were in touch with Pepco.
And I guess from those communications, the word is that things they're getting a handle on things, is I guess what I'm trying to say.
Yes, but now we have to go building by building, make sure everything is safe and all of the fire protection and security is in place before we bring the public back in.
All right.
We've got a lot of tourists. It's the middle of spring tourist season, so we would love to get the people back in the museums as soon as we can.
We're looking at a big picture now from the top of our building, and you can just see the sort of the little white fuzzy area over there around the tidal basin. So you are absolutely right about that. There are a lot of folks in town right now, a lot of potential customers and museum goers out there just waiting for the word. The good news is all 4 of those museums, apparently the power is back on now at the Museum of American Art, the Air and Space Museum, the National Portrait Gallery, and the Indian Museum as well. Linda, thank you so much. We appreciate your joining us this afternoon. 10 minutes into this newscast already, and we've given you sort of a big picture look on what's going on around town, and a lot of that has to do with the lack of power in a lot of places. We'll keep a very close eye on that situation for you.